Fred Mace, Pensacola, Florida. How old were you when you recognized your gift, and how long did it take you to tell others?
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay, so hindsight being 2020, I know I had the gift of retrocognition when I was between the ages of 3 and 5 because I dreamt an entire scenario of my mother's life that was a secret, by the way, because she was a Holocaust survivor. But during that time, all I knew throughout my childhood was that I was, I felt strange, right? And I just had too much information. I would say legitimately I knew I had the gift when I got sober when I was 27. I've been clean and sober almost 23 years now. So actually that's not true, 22 and a half years. So, really in sobriety where I really, developed this spiritual path and I had done a lot of work on myself and then it's at that moment in hindsight I knew what it was. And I started doing readings like after 2 years professionally because I was a aromatherapist and the minute I started touching people, I started seeing, the real strong indications of their past, their psychological wounds, stuff that happened to them, mostly about the past and what was going on with them in the present. So I would tell them, and then they told their friends, and that's how I became an intuitive. But it was very stressful in the beginning because, unless you're really confident in yourself, I think, you can really pass on, inaccurate and distorted information. And I think you have to I really think that every one of us needs to be in therapy to do this for a living. We need to know what's our stuff, what's their stuff. I do.
How to know what's yours and what's not yours, yeah. That makes sense.
Exactly. So it was a process. My answer to that is it was a process. And if he's asking me, it was a him, right? If he's asking me this, or if anybody else is listening, obviously there's people listening, hopefully. My answer to all of you would be, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Explore it. I read every book you could think of. I studied psychology. I never got my degree because I didn't have time, but I must have, my God, everything I could get my hands on about the historic evidence, about something that would legitimize it for me as well, and because I didn't want to end up in the woo-woo circle. Because it's like people think, oh, that's woo-woo, and I'm like, it isn't. I'm not.
Because it's been sold that way for so long that when someone comes along with some sort of love for science like you do and trying to get the woo-woo out of it, you have to work harder than the woo-woo who's, appearing with smoke and all this stuff. And
I think that there's two reasons for that. The entertainment industry has really milked that, and that's not all their fault. I mean, people go to horror movies. They they think The Sixth Sense is all about seeing dead people in bathtubs bleeding. Come on, that's not how it is. Right? Sometimes it's just, knowing not to turn right because you're going to get into an accident, right? Or that you have a connection to someone who's deceased who wants to make amends, or, and then it goes away. It's like, everybody has the aptitude to a degree to dialogue with the divine, if you will, right? But also some of us, those of us who are in this, we are in this weird little fringe. We're like this minority fringe that don't have any regulation. There's no governance to it, right? There's no, you don't get a degree from a university. And then you're already having this issue that thinking that people are going to somehow denigrate you, or that they'll say it's bad, especially if you come from a Judeo-Christian background, Islam. Like the monotheistic background will tell you that there's evil there. So you find yourself in a little niche, and so who gets to get out? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm never going anywhere. I'm like, I've got a little foot here, a little foot there. I tell my publisher, I'm not New Age. He goes, you're more New Agey than you think. I'm like, I don't want to be.
I completely understand what you're saying, because I catch that the same thing just from having you or James Redfield or Neil Donald Walsh on my show. I'm already titled the New Age Show. But
listen, there's lots. Yeah, I know what you mean, though.
Yeah, and there's so much. I feel I have so much more depth than that.
Yeah.
I love science, and there's so much more to it. But once you throw it in there, you get the woo-woo connotation right away, and it's just I completely understand what you're saying. Hey, Fred, thanks for participating from Florida. Debbie Lorello, Syracuse, New York. My daughter seems incredibly intuitive at just 4. While I don't possess this gift, my mother did. I have reason to believe my mother is helping her on the other side. What can I do on this side to help my daughter cultivate this blessing?
You have such great people asking
Listen,
such
can
interesting
I tell
questions.
you, we have the best listeners.
You have the
in
best
the world.
listeners. Never mind. I got to tell you this too. Your show, and the two shows in the history of me being on people's shows, spiked my website over the top, which was you and Coast to Coast. And of all the people, like my husband's going, who's this Steve Maraboli?
Yeah,
who's this
we've
guy?
got
Well, you have to hear his show.
And I love George
and very
Norrie's show.
intelligent. We got more fan mail from your show, and really intelligent. Okay, so here's my answer to that. So if you have reason to believe this, then you have this sense that this is the way it is. So what you want to do is you don't want to discourage her. You just want to say, oh, that's nice. Oh, what else did she say? And allow her the, just the freedom and, to be able to share whatever it is that she's picking up, without stopping her and without curtailing her, and say, let her explore it a little bit, and let her know also to be discerning about who she shares this with, right? And I think that's really key. It's not to make her scared, but just to say, it's okay to share it with people you know well, or, you can share it with me, because as she gets older, she'll learn a little bit more discernment, because we do live in a society where it's still not okay. And, and so she doesn't want to go to school and say, I just talked to Grandma, and she's sitting here right beside me helping me my homework.
Right.
I can tell because of Grandma.
And I think it's great that that Debbie considers this a blessing for her daughter. I think that it's great. When I was young, I remember one great thing I remember about my mom was that when I was about 10 years old. And I believe, when I look back now, I believe what I was doing was, in essence, a type of astral traveling. And I would, when I go to bed, and I would say to my mom, "Ooh, Mom, where should I go tonight? Should I go visit Grandma in Chile? Where should I go?" And she'd say, go wherever you want. Now, of course, then I hit teenage years. I saw girls in skirts, and I haven't done it since. Yeah. But I do remember how great it was to be able to tell my mom that and her respond in a positive way.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the thing too, because then you don't have that sense that there's something wrong or I should be afraid, because fear is something that gets instilled in people, by really outmoded dogma, and and the orthodoxy will say that doesn't follow, even in science. I mean, the orthodox scientists don't want to know anything about quantum physics or any of this consciousness research. That's like the kiss of death. Right? So, what do you mean? They still see the Newtonian physics as being real, or the mechanical universe as being the real one, right? So you're going to have, so to have it at home, knowing that when you go outside, there's people there that don't get it yet. So that's fantastic, because you didn't grow up thinking that, oh, that's bad. You just went, wow, yeah, I used to astral travel when I was a kid, but then there was girls. So.
Yeah, and then that just go. I remember, arguing. I was brought up Catholic, so I'd go to these CCD things until I got my confirmation. And I remember I'd get in trouble all the time there for asking questions that made sense to me. And it didn't make me the most popular kid in class, but it was still something that when I would get home, my mom, again, would say, no, don't worry about it. You were just asking a question. It was a great question. They just didn't want to answer it.
Now, see, or that they don't know how to answer it, and I think that's no one's fault either. I think that, we tend to blame, not you didn't, but, the institution, meaning that the people are there now that are doing the teaching, but they can't help themselves. They're the ones that are taught from the people who were taught from the people who were taught from the people who were taught. And so, and this is the way it is. And if it threatens their worldview, then they're afraid, and they are supposed to be the teachers, right? So they can't answer that, so you'll get punished, or or the demons made you do it.
right. You're wicked.
Which is. Let me tell you. Woo, listen, I'll tell you something. Orthodox religion is more woo-woo and superstitious than any psychic, I'll tell you. Okay? They're the ones that believe in the guy with the red horns, okay? And and the demons and the thises and the that. And purgatories and stuff like that. Come on, give me a break.
You are absolutely right. Debbie, thanks for listening from